Another gentleman is going to join us. He's a man who started writing at the age of 8 years old. He was a precocious kid, and he hasn't stopped writing since then. In between, he has managed to become one of the most respected writers in the country, in the world, in fact, and also a bit of a darling of the beautiful people. So he conducts that life and also manages to get his work done. And he's a frequent and interesting man to talk, guest on talk shows, interesting man to talk to. Welcome, please, Truman Capote, right here. How do you do, sir, and what's on your mind?
Well, I've been sitting back there in the room listening to all of you talk. I was very interested in what you were talking about, beauty. Beauty as applied to a performance on a screen and what happens to a person photogenically, because I have a theory. I worked with a lot of actors, mostly doing the scripts, but being on the sets and watching what happens to them. And the first time I ever remember watching this phenomena, I did a movie with John Huston called Beat the Devil, with Humphrey Bogart and Robert Morley and Gina Lola Bridgerton.
Yeah, that's one of the funniest movies ever made.
Thank you, because I think it's kind of, I liked it myself. But anyway, but the extraordinary thing was this girl who had never appeared in an American film before, speaking English, came there, learned the part phonetically, and she wasn't really, she was pert. Mm-hmm. You know, she was cute, she was pert, she had a certain sort of little thing. But the moment she went on that camera, the moment the camera started to turn, she became a completely different person. She had an immense rapport with the camera. And this is what I think happens with people who have a certain sort of genius. It doesn't matter what their appearance is, whether they're homely or beautiful or not beautiful or whatever it is. It's some kind of extraordinary rapport that they make with themselves with the camera. And I remember long ago when Marilyn Monroe first appeared, and John Huston was a great friend of mine. We did these 2-3 films together. And the first film that she was ever in was this thing called The Asphalt Jungle. So on comes the set that was going to come there for lunch that day. On comes the set, this girl who's really, well, really nothing. I mean, just to look at for the moment, she might as well have been, you know, selling hot dogs out on Hollywood and Vine with a little thing. And then the moment she put on this thing and walked in front of that camera, walked across the room, and the camera closed into her, the most fantastic thing happened, because she understood all about the camera. It's some kind of extraordinary love affair thing. Not to pursue this subject further, but still in all, it is to be interesting, because many years later, Garbo, who hasn't appeared in a film since 1944, I think, posed for a whole set of still photographs for a friend of mine while we were together in the country. Now, she is still an extraordinarily beautiful woman, but nevertheless, time has done something here and there, and she posed for these photographs, I should say about 60 of them.
When was this?
Well, actually, it was about 8 years ago.
Uh-huh.
But the point of it is that every single one of those photographs, because she knew what she was doing with that camera, much more than the cameraman, who was Cecil Beaton, who's pretty good, you know, knew himself. She knew so much better, and every single one of the photographs were absolutely beautiful.
She couldn't explain it, though, could she, or tell anybody?
But it's just a theory of mine that people have some kind of rapport that works between themselves in a camera. It has nothing to do with acting particularly. I mean, one can give a great performance, and that's another thing, but I'm talking about creating this illusion of beauty where beauty doesn't even really exist. I believe people who are really quite homely can walk into a room, camera, no camera, I'm just meaning private life, and because of some sort of illusion that they have about themselves, some sort of discipline and structure, and that they are really creating an extraordinary illusion of loveliness.
John Simon had an article about women who are not attractive should not pass themselves off as attractive on the stage, that they can't play beautiful if they aren't.
Yes,
they've
but
never
that
known
was
what
one of
it
the
is.
cruelest pieces I've ever read. That was the piece about Zoe Caldwell.
Her name
Yes,
came up in it.
yeah, oh, came up in it. Now, I don't happen to know Zoe Caldwell. I think she's an extremely talented actress. I've seen her in 2 plays. She did this play, Colette. She played the part. This John Simon wrote an article about her, which I think was one of the most unbelievably cruel things I've ever read in my life, because at some point in it, she has to expose her breasts, and he said something to the effect, I don't know whether this, because I'm not quoting it exactly right, but he said something to the effect that the few people in the audience who were heterosexual were instantly reconverted.
I'd forgotten that.
Well, that was more or less the line. I'd probably be sued tomorrow, but in any event, that was more, but I mean, that sort of thing, that sort of boom that John Simon does, I mean, what's the point of it? It's just really for your own aggrandizement, just to make a kind of a sensation for yourself. I think cruelty for cruelty's sake is the only unforgivable thing.